because we didn't have no.
Don't sell our sewers.
These people are so nuts. I wouldn't want to talk to any of them.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, hell you did.
How was I supposed to know? Okay, folks.
They respected us, we might respect them. Let's go. Wow.
Okay, folks.
Wow. Such a shocking thing. I said, yeah.
Now, we said this before, we can try to talk and hear some folks tonight. Obviously, it's a very large group. Everybody wants to speak.
Who's the open mouth breather?
We're sharing, so we're gonna cut off all the people on Zoom? We can't do that.
Well, you can bring a phone out there outside. You can go on a phone. 12 years old student.
It's Zoom, not film.
I did.
Okay.
You can Zoom up the line when you ask that, when you get that vote.
Can I ask you a question before you adjourn? I sent each and three of you about a week ago a list of very specific, not too complicated questions. And none of the three of you responded. So if you don't respond to email, and there's no opportunity for people to speak and ask questions and try to understand how
But
this
none of
issue
them
is going
speak.
to
All
affect
they
them,
do is scream.
then how's this going to play out? You tell us, where's the venue for people to, validly ask legitimate questions and get information that they deserve? And you're the only ones who can provide that information. And I've looked at the details that are on the website. It's very unclear, it's very vague, and I think people deserve some clarity. And you're not providing that.
So we are offering clarity in the form of a suggestion that we need to include everybody, since this was not on the agenda tonight.
But it's up to you to schedule a meeting and provide the venue.
Let her speak.
So I do respond to emails. Your questions were many and epic in length, and I will answer them. They require a long answer. If I am to give a truthful answer, they require a lot of exposition, a lot of research. We are offering for everybody to come back at a time. We can have just a sewer meeting or a portion of our public meeting for just sewer comments. We did not know this was gonna be this tonight.
Yeah, but people carved out.
Let her speak, come on.
But then why
Let her
did you
speak.
tell us? Carve out time and get yourself on the agenda so we can plan for it.
No notice that people were showing up.
You see the number of people.
You haven't seen the signs?
So wouldn't a logical answer on your part
None of
be,
them said
let's
show up
schedule a
tonight.
separate 2-hour meeting in a venue that everyone can attend?
I think we're saying
What are you saying?
That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're saying.
Who is speaking?
Okay,
Yeah, we're saying we'll schedule a meeting sometime in September at a venue, probably the General Wayne Elementary School. It's got that big auditorium.
And the sale won't go through before then?
No, you weren't listening.
We are not out there before.
Yeah.
We are not voting on the sale. There's no vote tonight of any sort. There never was going to be. At the last meeting, and I will repeat what we said, although the PUC approved the sale, there are appeals. One by Mr. Swift, who represents some portion of you folks, and by the Office of Consumer Advocate. We are not going to go to closing with Aqua until we have answers, information, and some resolution. Now, if we're gonna vote on that, you're gonna hear before that happens what the courts are saying, what the PUC is saying, all that's gonna be out there.
We know what the PUC said.
Know what they said, but there are appeals. We have
We
no.
know what the judge said too.
We don't know what the outcome of the appeals and various motions are going to be. So we're not going to schedule a closing until there's some resolution of these things. And if the court says no, then we don't close.
What if the court says yes, and you have all these people that are advocating not to sell? You have said at previous meetings that you are in favor of this. Mr. Ryan was not in that meeting, and was not a substitute for Molly.
Can we address this?
Wait, let him finish.
When is it gonna change your mind?
That's not a question I can answer here tonight. Because again, we're gonna have another meeting with everybody, and you can ask that question again.
I think there's some trouble that there are people in here who are hearing what he's saying, and he's trying to answer a lot of questions, and there are a lot of people outside that don't know what's going on right now, even when we're talking about having another meeting. So if maybe someone could start passing the word out that there's conversation about that, to maybe draw down some tempers, that might be helpful.
People are here tonight, they want to be.
Understood, I absolutely understand that, and there is a right to public comment
Yeah,
at
maybe
tonight's
you had to
meeting.
shut the windows.
We can't hear ourselves.
We can't hear ourselves speaking because there's so much noise coming in.
I'm organized format.
Yeah.
Why did you have a meeting now? I'm just rescheduling now. I'm already here. Just end the meeting now.
Well, we have to allow public comment.
Everyone, you know
So-
what's going on? There's no sale tonight, okay?
It never was going to be. Don't say it.
All right? Well, they can't, because of the appeal.
So.
They're gonna set up a meeting, so we all can be there.
You have a date for the public meeting?
You better have room for yourself.
Are you not able Okay. You don't.
These people have completely hijacked a regular supervisors meeting.
Okay. What we're gonna say is.
Listen, hold up, let me listen.
The regularly scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting on the 12th of September. There's no sale, nothing's gonna happen between now and then. Absolutely nothing as far as the sewers are concerned. Lawyers are gonna be making money for themselves, but no decision will come to this table before that time. We're not going to close, we're not gonna vote, we're not gonna do any of those things. So no opportunity is going to be lost for you to be heard.
You haven't been known to tell the truth.
Come on, just let Jody,
I remember.
just let's finish this issue. If you don't want to be heard on the 12th, then we'll try to hear you tonight. But I would seriously encourage everybody to set aside the 12th to come and be heard. We will schedule a full schedule so that everybody can be heard. We'll have microphones. We won't have Zoom because schools aren't set up for Zoom. Ma'am, you keep saying that, but we as a public body, we can't say, oh, if you have a phone, Zoom in.
No, you can go, you can use the phone as a camera, so I teach a class once a month that way.
These people aren't happy with anything.
Is it possible to make a motion to table and second the motion?
There's nothing to table. There's no motion, there's no action.
This is a public hearing to hear the people.
A public hearing to hear the people. Okay. And then the pink elephants entered the room.
On which the residents of the township will comment. So therefore, there's nothing to table. What they're offering is to have a meeting, their next regularly scheduled meeting in a location that can accommodate.
Everybody.
Absolutely, and I think it probably would be for that, as long as that's a guaranteed thing and then it doesn't disappear 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you make that motion is to say, we will reconvene on the 12th of September?
Which is our regularly scheduled meeting. The only caveat I can put out there is I don't know, sitting here, whether the school is available. We have Sugar Town. Well, again, I said the school, and I don't want people saying, oh, you're not gonna be.
Because if
We
you're
have,
trying to do it, but it is.
we will try for General Wayne. Sugar Town's not as good because it doesn't have seating. We'll find a venue.
Venue and a date.
The 12th of September. Has to be
Oh my God, who is that idiot?
7 p.m.
I'm just,
Might go early.
Okay, good.
I suggest as a contingency, since this is such an elaborate issue, that you have 2 days in succession. Just because more people may want to talk, so I suggest to, in case something happens, even with the first day having been in the business world, stuff happens. So you have 2 meetings and that should cover it.
I appreciate your suggestion. The challenge is finding 2 dates that works for everybody. If we don't hear everybody that night, and my goal would be to hear everybody that night, which may make it a late night. Because, cutting comments down, making people speak in 2 minutes is often very challenging. So anyway, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Shoemaker, I don't know you, but I honestly have a difficult time trusting your words because all of you live in the community. And the only way all of us knew about this meeting was what came through the mail. So I assume that all of you received that mailing.
None of us did.
You're not on sewer.
We're not part of your mailing list.
So I received it.
Over 2,000.
I received it. I am not on sewer, but I did receive some notice from, I believe, a mailing that came out from the SaveOurSewer.org. No mention of 100, 200 people coming tonight. So it's not on the
You
agenda.
could have used your imagination.
My imagination runs many ways, but it didn't run to this. We have to put it down.
God, they're so rude.
And there are 500 people who have signed up on the email. So you can assume, that was in.
But again,
I didn't get the
Assume makes an ass out of you and me.
It says sewer, so we have no reason to say that.
It's not an agenda
I
item.
understand you're gonna offer a venue for people to ask their own individualistic questions. But where should I or anyone else on the township's website? Clarity. This will be the impact when this sale happens. That's the question that I have looked at a lot of the information, and you saw my question.
Yeah.
So it's not like I just thought them out of nowhere. Where is that clarity?
So a lot of the questions you asked, in my opinion, were open-ended. And we have to answer both ways on them. We have to say, well, this could happen. We might get denied for all of these state hearings. We might get approved for the state hearings. It really depends on what happens with those. So one answer that's quick and easy isn't possible for a lot of these. But
I'm primarily interested in what is the impact to me personally. And those were the gist of the questions that I asked.
so
And before, and it's this.
Who is this who doesn't identify himself?
Closing, which it sounds like,
we're not.
but if these appeals had not happened, there would be nothing preventing you from going to closing, correct?
Correct.
Right, so if you're at this point in a transaction, in my opinion, there should be a great deal of clarity as to the details.
Who is that?
You should be able to answer those
The mouth
questions.
breather in the check shirt.
What is this? What's going on? It's a meeting and you're allowing people to ask questions, so I'm asking questions.
So yes. Yeah.
Okay, but so my point
He's
is,
hijacking the
don't
meeting,
just be
whoever
prepared
this
for people
is.
to come and ask you questions that you have to parry real time. Where is the clarity? When is that going to be provided and how will it be provided?
Mr. Shoemaker.
So you gotta tell me specifically exactly what.
You gotta?
I don't think
No,
this
he
is
don't
the time
gotta.
for it. I will respond to an email. It
Okay.
takes a lot, and it also depends, I'll give you one raw example. Clarity depends on the size of your lot and the amount of flow that exits your property. So how can I do that right now?
Yeah, I'm not asking you to tell me what my sewer bill is gonna be, like, how many gallons of water I'm gonna use
People
5
are
years from now.
asking.
That's not my question. That
People are
wasn't,
asking.
okay?
Okay,
Mr. Shoemaker,
Sir.
as I understand, listening to what you talked
Speak
about,
up, please.
what you talked about, or some comments that were made.
Louder.
You are in favor of the selling of the sewer infrastructure. You're in favor. Is that correct?
If I was a supervisor in Willistown, I would be beating my head on the desk right now.
You're both in favor. Yes. Okay. What is the prime item in breakdown of the whole system I'm talking? Sewers, pumps, equipment, manpower, what's the issue there that is the one that's driving you to that decision?
I can answer that question, but all of these folks will start screaming and yelling and jumping up and down when I do. But the answer is that in the long run, it will be less expensive for the ratepayers than if the township retains it.
No.
So,
Be respectful, please.
is it,
Name calling is.
when you make that comment, is it based on the age of the sewer lines? The different
There
sewer
are a
lines?
lot of factors there,
Is there a lot of terracotta lines?
almost entirely.
Almost entirely.
The system was built in the early 1970s.
Yeah.
We've just replaced less than 1,000 feet of line, and it cost us $1.75 million. Because we're paying prevailing wage. Aqua doesn't have to do that, so their costs are immediately 35% less.
Those people want to, they have to take some contract to work. So those are.
Again, as you just said, we start getting into the nitty gritty of it. But you asked my answer, that's the short answer.
So that's what you base it on. Basically, that.
Increasing costs
Are
across.
you on the sewer system yourself, sir?
For me?
Are you on the public sewer system?
I am not.
Is your brother?
No,
Oh, that's interesting.
it has nothing to do with it.
That's a lot.
Okay,
And
folks,
the fact you know it.
Oh my God.
before we start having public comment and continue, I think we're going to move this meeting, all of this comments, all of your questions, to September 12th. We'll confirm the venue. We will send a note to Mr. Batchelor, since he has all of your email address, to be sure that you guys. all
But isn't
are
Mr.
informed,
Batchelor on
date,
septic?
time, and location. We may
So why does he
actually
care?
try to start the meeting at 6:30 rather than 7 to give more time for regular business. And maximize the time for public comment. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I do wanna make sure that everyone is aware that we have a conditional use hearing scheduled for that evening as well. So,
It will
that
be
will take
first thing. We'll have to go through,
approximately 20 or 30 minutes of the
Yeah.
meeting.
which is why I'm suggesting if we start early, we can get more time in the evening for all of you.
Have you given a thought of the maintenance of the sewer system, whatever it is, that you maintain it and we, the sewer users, would pay any fees that were necessary for this maintenance, rather than being at the mercy of predatory aqua fees?
Oh, they think they can afford to repair sewers?
Thank you. Mr. Olson?
Yeah, I have two questions. I don't know if anybody knows I ran for supervisor against Mr. Shoemaker.
Oh, look, it's the Susan Rosso campaign.
Four votes the night.
That's a really ugly dress, Susan.
Congratulate him. He also,
Thank God.
right, let's keep it
Come
polite.
on, come on, please.
Seriously, excuse me.
Susan, please.
Let's watch Susan flip out.
I understand that you received a donation from
Oh my God. Dun, dun, dun. $250.
My records, my campaign do not show that. They made an offer of a donation, which I declined. I have no idea, the information is on their fact form. Looking into it, no idea whether they may have bought tickets to something, I don't know. But we have no check from them for that. So I can't speak to that one or the other, I just don't know.
that much in tickets, but we won't.
They offered me $500 and I refused that. So I don't know, I really don't
And then
know.
my second question is actually because I know he does respond to the Willistown community page on Facebook. And
Dun, dun,
my
dun.
question is, did he honestly know, not know, that something like this was going to take place?
I stopped reading because it's gotten so,
It has the date on
so ridiculous. I stopped it because you guys,
it. So how much did you read?
I stopped it. I don't read it anymore.
How much did, you don't,
I just told you, I stopped reading it.
when did you stop reading?
Oh my God, Susan.
On Tuesday morning. I really debate this with you. I stopped reading because it's so inflammatory. Okay. One quick comment on my part. One quick comment. Honest to God, what happened to the Willistown that I grew up with? You know, we were civil. We were civil. People were civil. There's no civility anymore.
Correct.
You guys are just out for your best interest, and we're looking out Stop. It's part of civility in running a meeting is that one person speaks at a time. If this turns into a yelling match, we will shut this down and send everybody home. Mr. Lang has as much right to a public comment and statement as everybody else. So please allow him to speak. And then the next person to speak will be this gentleman back here. I'm done. I'm just flabbergasted. That's all. Very disappointed in Willistown on a lot of issues.
It's very disappointed in you.
Please.
Shut up, Susan.
One person at a time. Okay. Supervisor School 101 said do not interact with angry residents, and I will not interact with you all tonight. Okay. You guys are too emotional. We'll talk about it another time. All right. Thank you. This gentleman here.
Thank you. I'm sure you guys did a cost-benefit analysis before you decided to move forward with the sale. Will you share that with the community before we have the next meeting?
That's a comment. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
That was a question.
Sort of following on that, it's just sort of two quick observations. One is, my understanding is that the Commonwealth judge reviewed the application submitted to the PUC, and his findings were that there was no value to the residents in doing this sale. Molly's.
That was an administrative law judge, not a Commonwealth.
Well, whoever it was right? And then the other thing, I guess, that sort of concerns me is we see the number of people here, we're all Willistown residents. We are all, I assume, in opposition to this takeover, and yet there are 3 people who are sitting up there who will determine what our fate is going forward in terms of sewer. So what will it take after you're observing a crowd like this? What will it take to change your minds, Mr. Lang and Mr. Shoemaker, about what the township residents want?
Thank you for your comment.
I appreciate that you're trying to make a decision based on what's best for the residents, and that you truly believe that it would be a lower cost
in the long
run. I think you would be very well served if you could present the case for that. Show us the numbers. Convince us. Otherwise, it's going to be a shouting match between you and us.
I will say that we did present the numbers early on. Your leader, Mr. Jordan, determined that they were wrong. It becomes an argument of figures and what assumptions you make going into it. But
he doesn't represent me. I don't know who he is, but prove to me that this is in my best interest. Prove it to all of us. And I think that would go a long way.
Well, thank you.
Please come prepared to talk about the cancellation clause to unwind sewer sale and then the fines associated with that. Well, that's a comment. So please, what is the path if you were to vote to shut it down, despite how the PUC and exit the contract? We want financials and the path forward timeline. Thank you.
Are you ready to answer?
No. I'm holding the building up.
It's a sewer line in there.
There may be a sewer line. Anyone else here in the room? Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to not speak in hypotheticals.
It's not speaking hypotheticals, but I want to tell you.
Excuse me.
Our factual experience.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Could you start again? I couldn't hear you.
My name is Linda Watman. I'm a Willistown resident. We have a vacation home in Lake Harmony, which is Peter Township of the Poconos. It's a 1,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, and 1.5 bath cabin in the woods. Aqua purchased the sewer system, the Peter Township system, in 2014. Part of that was a moratorium on the rates, on the sewer rates. We're on a well also, we have sewer. There was a 2 years, so we went from paying $33 a month to then when that moratorium ended, $66 a month. In 2019, the PUC authorized Aqua to then raise rates. We now pay on this little cabin in the woods $135 a month for sewer. There you go. Which is $1,600 a year. It is twice as much as what we currently pay for our sewer on Veterans Way. So I shudder to think what Aqua's gonna do to my sewer rates on my 5-bedroom, 5-bath house compared to what is happening with my house. So
She realizes that sounds like first world
I think
problems.
the civility is like dead in this room, and it's appalling. But I just want to talk facts. And facts are, we are paying a boatload of money up in our Lake Harmony house because of the sale of sewer systems to Aqua. And it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen if this goes through. And we're gonna see these rate increases that may not happen in a year or 2 years. Once that time period ends, it's off to the races with Aqua. And that's a scary prospect for a lot of people who can't afford that.
And these people still don't realize they have to go to the state to change state laws that will stop that.
Anyone else at this point? Yes, sir.
My name is Wayne Lilly, you may not remember me.
I remember you.
Thank you very much. I would really like to know, who owns the sewer system? Do you or do we?
The people of Willistown, the township owns it, not the ratepayers. The ratepayers are a subset of everybody in Willistown owns the system.
Okay. And most people did not want to sell it.
I'm sorry, sir, what?
Most people did not want to sell it.
The township
We
owns it.
own it.
You do not own it. You are a ratepayer. You are paying for a service. You do not achieve equity in the system because you're paying to use it.
My house is my equity in the system.
No, I'm just saying, you don't gain equity in the sewer system because you are paying for a service. There's somebody in the back. Yes, ma'am.
What are the supervisors planning to do once they tell me?
I have stated before my position on that, which is that the proceeds should be used to offset rate increases, so that it would go back to the ratepayers in that way. But we do not have consensus on this board on that. But that is the position that I have maintained all along. What's changed in that over the years is the number of millions that Mr. Jordan and others have calculated is required. What I'm saying is, whatever the number is, it'll come out of the proceeds. It's not going to be just distributed into the general fund for township purposes. We don't need that money. We're not doing this for the money. Okay. Do I see any other raised hands?
There are a couple on Zoom.
Okay, hold on.
There are a couple people on Zoom.
Yeah, hold on.
Can you clarify something on that point? Are
Yes.
you talking about that money going back to the users of the sewer system or to the whole
The
town?
ratepayers, not the whole township, because they're not going to be affected by rate increases. Okay. We have a number of people here on Zoom. I'm going to go to them next. Mr. Mayor, Frank Mayor.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for your time, and I appreciate the time to I see that in the litigation pending, the appeals, that the Obermeyer, an expensive law firm in Philadelphia, has been retained to litigate against the interests of many of the folks in the room here. So who is paying those legal fees? Is it the general fund or the ratepayers?
It's coming out of the ratepayer base.
So,
and
so
by the way,
is there an opportunity for those? Is there an opportunity for the law firm who opposes the Obermeyer firm
Obermeyer
to be paid as well out of the sewer rate, the sewer fund?
Well, first let me say something. I need you to re-ask your question. Obermeyer represents the township sewer sale on behalf of the township. They're not litigating in court as far as these appeals are concerned. They will represent us there, but we're not taking a position on those. We're not partying in that sense. We will do only what is required of us under the asset purchase agreement with Aqua. Now, what was your next question? I'm sorry.
Is the sewer fund available to fund the legal fees of the representative of this group that opposes the sale? Would the sewer fund pay for those fees?
No.
And why is that?
You're suing the township. They're not paying your legal fees, dude.
Well, yeah, so the sewer fund can only be used for township purposes, so to advance the township's position in any litigation related to the sewers or for sewer infrastructure. It cannot be used to give to private citizens to use as a legal defense fund sort of thing. It's only for the township's use.
I thought we the people elected you as our representatives.
And you're essentially suing the township. So they're supposed to pay your legal bills?
Yeah.
Obermeyer does not represent the Board of Supervisors or the pro-sale of sewer or the anti-sale of sewer. It represents the township in the context of the asset purchase agreement. We have to have an attorney for that.
Why did they enter an appearance in the litigation?
Because they're representing the township, and that's how you represent someone. You announce that I'm representing the township by entering an appearance.
Will they be filing pleadings and briefs in support of the sale?
They file pleadings and briefs as directed by the township.
And is the township supporting the sale then?
The township is honoring the obligation of the asset purchase agreement. We have not entered as an independent party when we've been asked to a number of times.
All right, thank you very much. I found that very interesting. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Henry? Mr. Jordan?
Wake up. Wake up.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Yes, thank you.
Well, good evening. I have a couple comments. The first time.
I'm losing you.
We're not hearing you, Henry.
So I don't want to expose anybody. So I'm sitting outside in the parking lot with another 100 people. The first thing is I've heard 2 or 3 times tonight that you had no idea that a number of people were coming to this meeting tonight. And that is, well, that is false. This morning, Supervisor Perrin called Julie Frisora and said, I'd like that, can you have a meeting with me before tonight's meeting? Because because she knew that we were coming, and I'm quite certain that all of you knew that we were coming. So please don't say you didn't come. You didn't know
the
we were
entitlement.
coming. You knew we were coming.
Or misplaced sense
That's hearsay. Turn on the message. I called her because she had sent me an email. That is not what I said. Please be very careful because I don't like to be misrepresented.
Good for you.
Well, that's what she said.
Oh, and that
in the
makes it
room.
true?
Can you ask her?
Absolutely.
But Henry, the real issue is that even if we were told this morning that five.
Now, my second comment.
Henry,
Let's not argue. Let's not argue about that.
Let's not argue. I'm the only voice in the room.
Henry.
Go ahead.
Even if we had known this morning that 500 people were showing up, there is no way we could have rescheduled this meeting to a larger venue because of the advertising requirements.
I understand.
We are required by law to give, what is it?
At least 24 hours notice. In a newspaper, which really requires 48 hours, and over a weekend, it requires it to be sent to them by Thursday or Friday.
We are bound by a, let's call it an antique law that says we have to publish it in a newspaper because nobody reads newspapers anymore.
Which is true.
But the fact is, we would not have been able to reschedule this meeting that quickly. We have public notice requirement. Okay, you had it.
The other comment that I wanted to make, because I feel like we are regressing about 2 years. Some of the things that I heard tonight were the things that I was hearing in late 2020, that our rates were actually gonna, if we are sold to Aqua, then higher, and there was mention about Henry Jordan's number, but that Henry's numbers is a way to minimize the numbers. Now, about a year and a half ago, we decided that debating these issues with you was, for us anyway, was a little bit like talking to the wall because we were making no progress. So what did we do? We played by the rules of the game. We went to the PUC. You were there with us. So was Aqua. Can you hear me?
No, you're cutting in and out, unfortunately.
So I was just saying that, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Oh my God, we can all hear you. Okay. Just go on.
I was just saying that about a year and a half ago, or about a year ago, because we were getting absolutely nowhere in this debate on the rates, and you kept talking about, rates are going to be lower under Aqua, and you kept talking about Henry's numbers. We went to the PUC. We talked to a judge. You were there.
Oh, you're such a wascally wabbit.
We all presented evidence. We all presented the law, and the administrative law judge sided with us. He basically said there is harm in this transaction instead of public benefit as required by law. And he recommended that the transaction be turned down. So these are no longer Henry's numbers. I mean, these are numbers. This is like saying if I recited the times tables to you here tonight, you would refer to them as Henry's times tables. I mean, these are the numbers. These are the numbers. And the OCA accepted the numbers. The judge accepted the numbers. So these are the numbers. So when we start with the same debate all over again,
is this dude going to be like a weeble that falls over? Because he's just rocking.
And this is why, our point of view now is that this is really a mess, because you have, hundreds and hundreds of residents that don't want this sale. And we don't seem to be able to reach agreement on anything, on the most basic numbers. So, what I would like from you is a commitment that you will not close this sale until the Commonwealth Court, or maybe the Supreme Court,
didn't we already cover this?
Adjudicates this decision, until this decision is final. Because we think, if we're going to have a debate about the transaction, it's going to have to be with them, because we don't get anywhere with you.
Your comment about a final decision, or final decree, I think they call it.
Final unappealable order, maybe?
Or
or final order.
Final order.
Final order. If a final order comes out and says that the sale is approved, then we are required to settle, to close.
Correct.
That would,
Yes.
yes, we are.
Yes.
Under the agreement.
But the asset purchase agreement allows you, while it's being appealed, if both you and Aqua agree, it allows you to close the transaction even though there's a pending appeal. And
at the moment, Henry, you may have missed this because you were outside, but we are not going to close until this board is satisfied that those issues have been addressed and resolved. We are not going to go to closure anytime soon. Somebody was telling people that there was a vote tonight on this, and that was absolutely incorrect. We said at the last meeting, saying it again now, we are not going to go to closing with Aqua until this board is satisfied that those issues have been addressed.
And that means,
Or a final order comes down, in which case we have no choice.
So that's another way of saying that is until the appeal is adjudicated, correct? Not until you're satisfied that the issues have been addressed. I mean, what I would like is a commitment that you won't close on the deal.
Wascally Rabbit, they just answered your question.
The appeal, they rule on the appeal.
Well, their appeals can go on infinitely, as you well know. We can't sit here and make that kind of a commitment tonight.
Okay, so basically, you're telling this group that you might, decide to close, even though
everybody would be informed of that before any kind of vote would take place.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be informed.
We have no interest.
Don't want it to happen.
No interest in rushing this to closing. We don't need the money.
What are you selling the money? If you don't need the money, why are you selling the asset?
I think I explained.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, we're not going to continue down that line, Henry, because again, there's no.
You need a gavel.
I'm talking to Mr. Jordan at the moment. Okay.
You're Dan. You're Dan.
You're Dan.
You're Dan, you're Dan,
That's where we are at the moment.
You're Dan, you're Dan, you're Dan, you're Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you. I see Catherine P. Fourth one, Dan.
Yeah, I just want to address a higher level point that has come up during this.
Who is this? Who's speaking?
This is Jason Catherine's
who?
husband.
Does Jason have a last name or is he illegitimate?
Eats.
Thank you.
Something that was mentioned earlier by both council members was that you were unaware of the pushback from the community or the size of the people in attendance here, and that you have tuned out of channels like the Facebook groups where people are complaining. That to me raises a larger point, which independent of the outcome of this particular issue is still concerning, and that is that you're just burying your head in the sand.
What,
You're
they're supposed to
completely out of
govern
touch
via
with what
social
the
media?
people of the township
Okay.
want, and
Donald
clearly
Trump.
their needs are not being represented by the officials who are supposed to be public servants. So it's very clear, I mean, from the people who are actually paying attention to the signs in people's yards, the chatter on social media, which may not have been present 40 years ago, but is certainly the zeitgeist or place where people appeal these kinds of discussions.
Yes, but you
in
don't
the modern
legally
age,
govern on
that
social
no one
media.
supports this. So why are we continuing to even debate on numbers? The numbers are going to be not necessarily manipulated, but certainly, as you put it, there are certain assumptions that go into numbers that we're never going to agree on. What is very, very clear and is an absolute is that the people of the township do not want this to happen. So I don't understand why we're not making every effort to stop it while we still can. That's it.
Clap, 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 clap. Susan Rosso looks like a penguin when she claps.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You were first.
I belong to Arm He's speaking.
Okay, we've lived here for 55 years.
I'm sorry.
My wife and I have lived here for 55 years. Okay, when you first started putting the sewage in the parts of the township, everybody paid with a bond issue, except for their own small connection and stuff like that. Okay, the ratepayers paid that bond issue, the township didn't pay any. When those people complained that they didn't want to have to use cast iron pipe, they wanted to use plastic pipe because it was cheaper, the sewer authority said, no, use the cast iron. People go to the township meetings and say, wait a minute, can't you tell them? No, the sewer authority, we have no control on that. That is a total separate entity. Then they come along with a low pressure sewer system, right? They put that in. No bond issue. We gotta pay $10,000 up front, right off the bat, just to run the pipe down the front yard, right? And then our connection fee and everything to go along with it. And what do we end up doing? We help pay off the bond issue for the people that had the original stuff that had a bond issue. And you complain about that to the township, and the township, we have no authority over that. That is a total separate entity. You gotta go to the sewer authority. So who owns this sewer system? You sound like you own it, the township. I think the sewer ratepayers, the sewer authority owns it, and it belongs to the ratepayers.
There is no sewer authority, so I'm not sure where that reference
Where have
is.
you been for,
No. The sewer authority is a specific legal entity which would, as this gentleman is saying, be separate from the township and run separately. But Willistown does not have a sewer authority.
West
I don't think
Goshen
we
did.
ever
Look how
have.
well that did.
So that's a little confusing.
I remember Bix Reeside was head of sewer authority when it took the very first.
I can't address that. I don't know.
You can't address that.
I don't know. But we do not have a sewer authority.
The records and find out when the sewer authority disappeared and sold it to the township. So
Oh my God, and green aliens are coming from the heavens above.
Bix Reeside was president of He made all those decisions all by himself.
I have no idea. I can't answer your question at all in that regard. But it still comes back to the fact that the township owns the sewer system and all its elements. It is paid for by the ratepayers who pay to use it. They do not achieve equity in the system. They don't get ownership.
You said for service, the ratepayers are paying for the service. I think the ratepayers paid for all the pumping stations, all the, everything.
Yep, absolutely.
The rest of the township, like you, who aren't on sewer system, never paid a penny.
That's correct.
And yet you say you're just as much an owner as this, as.
Because that's what the law says. The bonds are issued by the township and secured by the full faith and credit of everybody in the township. They wouldn't possibly issue bonds based just on the people who are ratepayers because you don't have the credit to do that. So in the township.
Who paid the bond issues off? Did you pay any bond issues off?
The ratepayers pay it through their rates.
My answer is, the rest of the township didn't pay a thing for it. The ratepayers paid for everything in that system, so it should belong to the ratepayers.
But it does not. The law says that it does not belong to you because what you're paying into it is for the use and service of the system.
You're renting.
You're not buying the system.
You're renting.
Pay your sewer bill.
That's a legal point, but it's not a good moral point.
I can't address that. We can't make decisions based on moral points. We have to follow the law.
What about this one?
Yes, ma'am.
I was outside. I have a couple questions. One, can you cancel the sale right now, tell Alpha we don't want it? And then number two, if you do that, how much can they sue us for? Do you have any idea?
I can't answer that question because I don't know.
You haven't perused that with the lawyers to say, if we cancel it right now, will they come out and sue us? Because
I think that would be a given.
Yeah.
But they would.
So, and what was the dollar to give me?
No
We
idea.
don't know, we'd be guessing, we can't cancel the sale because we signed the asset purchase agreement how many years ago?
But can't you always walk out?
It's not a cancellation.
If you sign an agreement for a house, you can always walk.
You can walk away if we face liability issues for that, because they poured money into this too. I don't disagree with you, but it's contract law, plain and simple. The agreement was signed by the township, we honor it or we get sued.
And we could, again, we can go back and forth on that, but the answer is we don't know what they would say.
You have no idea.
How's everybody feel about chickens today? and sidewalks.
I think you should tell her.
We did try. We did have the
Do want this
conversation.
to be heard, because
We did go to Aqua and ask them whether they would release us from the asset purchase agreement. And that was one of the hardest no's I've ever heard.
which I asked him to do, because I agree with a lot of people that perhaps it wasn't the best venture. However, we're in it now. He did ask to get out of it. They're not letting us out. So we're asking for a lawsuit, which is gonna be paid by, guess who? We just sued on this. So it doesn't make sense from a responsibility.
Okay. Folks, Ken,
Shouldn't we have had these meetings and these comments before the deal was signed? Yes.
and I will say this, and again, people get upset when I say this, but the fact is, we put these things on our agendas, we sent out notices, mailed notices to everybody in the system, and nobody showed
During
up.
COVID.
No, before COVID. It was before COVID. This was the agreement, the asset purchase agreement was signed before COVID.
That's with the rocker.
You can sit here and say you didn't get the mailing or you didn't do that. We've discussed this at a number of meetings. Mailings went out, telling people to come, telling them what the issue at hand was.
There you
Nobody
have
came.
Sewer Susan, the Valkyrie of
And
the sewer system.
It frustrates me enormously. You know, one of the greatest things that's happened since COVID is Zoom. We have people coming to meetings on Zoom that we never did before. Our biggest meetings were 4 or 5 people, no matter what was on the agenda.
Well, I could permit you.
Mr. Lillard, you came to a meeting about flooding and stormwater issues.
Yeah, and I invoiced you for $7,000 and you disregarded.
Yes, because we're
After
not,
you said we will take care of this regardless of what happens, we'll buy your house if that's necessary. I remember, you should remember, it should be in the minutes, but it's probably not.
it's in the minutes, and the phrase, if that's necessary to fix the problem. So we're not buying houses if it's not something that the engineering
Then
tells us
just
would
pay the
be.
$7,000 you owe me.
We're not liable for that $7,000.
Well, you're gonna find out, because I have sent invoices and we have sent enough to go to small claims court.
Please do.
Knock
That is
yourself
your
out.
right. Again, our frustration, and, you know, people who've been coming to these things have heard me say this time and time and time again, is that people don't come to the meetings until it's too late. Until somebody goes, oh my goodness, they're voting on something. And nobody shows up at all the meetings and discussions. It would have been a very different situation if anybody had. I'm gonna say this lady, because she's been holding up her hand, and then we're gonna call it a night and reschedule all this for the 12th.
I
Yes,
did
ma'am.
attend meetings, by the way, with Barbara, a lot of meetings on Zoom.
Yeah.
And there was one postcard sent that I received. So I don't feel that it was well communicated. I'll say it was communicated, but not in a significant way based on the significance of this situation.
It's very
I
significant.
have a micromanagement question regarding pre-doc. I have a grinder pump that has not been serviced for over 2 years for maintenance. And I have to believe there are other people in the township that are also in the same situation I'm in. It's been since May of 2020 that they've done preventative maintenance, and we're paying $200 a year in our sewer bills.
We can ask, send a note to the Director of Public Works. I don't know the structure of how they schedule their again, I don't know how they do that, whether it's only if something goes.
Well, there's
I honestly don't know.
we were told that there would be a preventative maintenance done as part of our $50 a quarter, and that's not being done as far as I can tell.
We'll get on that. Okay. I had said we were going to make one last, but ma'am, you have been, I will.
Thank you. I'm Frank. I live in Applebrook, Mass. I moved here from Berlin. When I first bought my house in Berlin, it was August. We had sod, and we had to water our lawn. And I got a $900 bill for water and then sewer when I first moved into that house. And that was quite a shock. And what I found out was that I could sub-meter my water meter so that the water that I used to water my lawn, that which was not going to the sewer, would not go against the sewer, because your water usage is what triggers your sewer. Is that and I'm understanding that that is not something that we have ability in Willistown. Is that something we can do?
I think there are a large number of people who have second meters, because there's a lot of sprinkler systems out there.
When we moved in, we were told we could not, so I don't know.
At Applebrook?
Maybe that's your
Who
homeowners.
told you? I brokered the township. Well, I don't know. Yeah, here 7 years.
I don't know the answer to that, because I thought Applebrook was all sprinklers, and not fires for their water. I thought they were, I have no idea.
No,
If you're saying-
sprinkler was an upgrade if you want.
Oh, for the individual places?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yeah. Can I ask you one question?
I said we were gonna, well, after this lady, I gave Lonnie a chance to speak. We're gonna, and again, we're gonna,
I know, it's fine, I just wanted to say something about the communication. Yes, and it's been very poor for years. Thanks to COVID, thanks to Zoom, thanks to the man who sent out the emails to everyone, communication is much better in the
but
township.
we don't have access to that email list.
You can get on it.
You can get on the list if you feel that that's necessary.
Not as individuals, the township is not allowed,
Dude, you're an individual.
and I have how much time in the day to do that? I'm sorry, I work. If you want the township to communicate better, then you need to voluntarily send us your email so we can put you on the distribution list. We are not allowed to go out and gather them without your permission. We as individuals make no difference at all. If you want the township to communicate better in this modern era of social media and email and everything else, you know, you can see the township's Instagram and what, but that's you coming in. We're not allowed to gather those email addresses unless you give them to us voluntarily.
It wasn't by email, by the way. I'm not on the email list. Our mailboxes were, everything was mailed to us. So just so
Right,
you
well,
know.
nothing came to the township.
I never sent it.
So, anyway,
Just so you
we're
know.
going to adjourn this meeting until the 12th. Our next meeting will be Monday, September 12th, 2022. It says 7 o'clock. I'm going to try to get it to 6:30. So we have more time to get our regular business done and then make the rest of the meeting about this. We're going to say at a venue, we hope General Wayne, but we'll have to confirm that because again, we don't know if the venue sale.
This has been a little bit of a contentious environment tonight. I appreciate the civility that you have presented for us and your management and communication so that we can hear voices heard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.